for mindset. Hello, testing. Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. The show, I say show, but actually it's just a live stream. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Gareth Davies, as it says right down. No, other hand. No, where is it? I got to get used to do it. There we go, right there somewhere. It says my name. This is the Mindset Podcast live stream. Thank you so much for joining us. Let me bring in the rest of the gang. Let's shoot straight over, first of all, to Weston-super-Mare. And, of course, the one and only Mr. Reeves Cooke. There he is. The man, the myth, the legend. How you doing, Reeves?
I'm in, what we in now? A fifth week of this enforced lockdown.
Is it really that long?
It's becoming the norm now. It's becoming the normal.
It's
not. Yeah, it's very strange.
It's all becoming very real.
Although I have noticed more people out and about when I do go out. So
are they wearing masks?
Well, I don't know, but I have noticed that they're getting rather angry in Germany. They're out on the streets. They were out at May Day and having a bit of a run around, and police were chasing them about. So yeah, wow. I think people are getting a bit
they're getting tired of it all.
Ants in their pants now. Yeah, they think, let's come on, sort this out.
Sort it out, will ya?
Sort it out.
Sort
it. Get it sorted.
Yeah, get it sorted. All right, let's bring in our final guest for this evening, the man that needs no introduction whatsoever. Of course, we're talking about the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Ben Emlyn-Jones. Hello, Ben.
Hello, Gareth. Hello, Reeves. And hello, everyone watching at home. It's great to be on the show. First time.
Yeah, the first time. Well, it's not the first. You've been on the Mindset.
I'm on the Mindset.
A million, billion, gajillion times.
I know.
This is the first time on the live stream with us. Great to have
great
you
to be
on
on.
board. Yeah, it's awesome, man. So, what are we going to talk about today? Well, the big news. I should switch my view. The big news this week, of course, has been David Icke, the man who's been on the minds of all conspiracy theorists for the last 30 years since he appeared on Wogan in the UK back in I don't know, when was that? The late
That was in the
1992.
was it 92? Was it?
Or was it
no,
91?
no, it was
Sorry,
it was in the 80s. It was like 89 or 90. I'm guessing something like that.
Let's just find out.
And then
it was when shell suits were in,
yeah,
because he had one on.
the purple.
I remember that.
The purple shell.
Yeah, I
suits.
remember that. Yes.
And a lot has happened in that intervening time. But with the pandemic that's going on right now, something very crazy is going on. He was number one. He was kicked off Facebook, I believe, on Thursday.
Yep.
And yesterday, he was kicked off YouTube. His YouTube account was removed. And today, he was doing a live stream with Brian Rose on London Real. And that live stream was kicked off after just, I don't know, like, how long was it, Ben? Like an hour or so?
About 20. I think it was 28 minutes. I was watching it live. There was all kinds of fuss about getting it on the air because there was all kinds of technical problems with that. Once they were on the air, 28 minutes down, it was kicked off YouTube. It carried on the London Real House player, but you had to. Originally, there was a login wall, and you had to have an account. I have an account on there from the last time David was on there and kicked off YouTube, but I couldn't log in. It wouldn't let you log in. So I missed probably about half an hour of it between when he was off YouTube and when eventually someone at the backstage managed to get rid of the login wall, and then it's playing on the London Real website, and that was the only place it could be seen. So we are looking at a situation where a large number of people working for different organizations, different companies, Facebook and YouTube, allegedly a different company, are conducting a full spectrum cancellation of David Icke. They want him away where no one can hear him and see him or hear him speak. They want to make life difficult for him. They want to make it difficult for people to hear him. And if that's not censorship, I don't know what is.
Now, the term you just mentioned, full spectrum banning.
Cancellation.
Full spectrum cancellation, where you're taking off all major platforms. Alex Jones has been was one of the first high-profile conspiracy theorists to be taken off all platforms. And he's been still running his show privately with his own servers. And if we are to believe what Alex says, he says this is the best thing that's ever happened to him. His listenership and his viewership has skyrocketed since that time. Can the same be said of David? You think that'll happen?
There is a Streisand effect element here, I think, possibly. I've got my eye on his BitChute channel to see if the 20,000 plus subscribers increases, which it will. And of course, he's been in the mainstream news probably more than he has for years. The Streisand effect is that it refers to Barbara Streisand's house, and she actually has a house not far from you, Gareth, in California.
Yeah, just across the street from me.
That's right. I know you pop over tea and coffee every so often.
all the time. All the time I go
perched
over.
on the edge of a cliff. And
yeah, I go there all the time.
Some people are photographing. There were some people doing surveys on coastal erosion, and which would have actually helped keep her house from falling into the sea, actually. But she made a big fuss about the fact they photographed her house. But the fact that they photographed her house, and it was the fuss that she made about it that actually generated a lot of publicity. So the photograph of her house went viral. And it could happen. This is a way in which these kinds of attempts to gag or to suppress information actually backfires on the people trying to suppress it. Another example is the book Spycatcher by Peter Wright, which would have been a very obscure biography and which hardly anyone would have read. It probably sold about 30 copies and been pulped. But the government tried to stop it coming out. This was in the 1980s. As a result, it became an international bestseller. People say, what is it they don't want us to see? And that's
the same.
I hope that will happen with David.
The same thing happened with Salman Rushdie and the Satanic Verses. That book was just going to be languishing in Nowheresville, and then some country in the Middle East said we're going to have to kill him because he's talking about Muhammad, and suddenly the book was like a massive bestseller the world over.
Exactly.
Same kind of thing.
To kill David Icke, yeah,
not yet.
Not yet. But he has death threats, but none state sanctioned, like with Salman Rushdie. But I do hope that this effect will once again manifest, because it's appalling, I think, what these people did, and they deserve to be punished for it. And what better way to punish for them than their plans to actually make David more popular?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Reeves, did you watch any of the stream today? Have you seen? I'm assuming you've seen some of the other ones, right? But maybe
yes.
not the one that happened today.
No, not today. But I do know of what's been going on and what's happened. You can't, I think I kind of look at this from a point of view where, if I put myself in, I don't necessarily agree with everything that David Icke talks about. I'm not like a 100%, a David Icke follower. I'll listen to what he says, and as I say, with you on any platform, you should be allowed to speak your mind and put across your ideas, and it's the public who listen that will be the people that kind of decide whether what you're talking about generates any traction or it languishes in nowhere land. But the problem is that I think that David and it should go down the same road as the likes of Alex-Jones, where he should move his whole operation off of YouTube, off of all platforms which are, basically businesses, and move it to his own website, his own video service, produce his content and have it available there, whether he wants to have it free or charge people to see it, or whatever business model he chooses to use. Because as much as everyone can be annoyed and shout about censorship, YouTube's going to do what YouTube wants, because YouTube are writing their own rules, and if you're not going to dance to their rules, they'll get rid of you. At the end of the day, if you just be honest, okay, David Icke, 900,000 followers, nearly 1 million followers, that's nothing to sniff at. That's a lot of people, and that's worldwide. And the same with Alex-Jones. He had a lot of followers, but then again, YouTube aren't really interested in people like that. What they're interested in is, fluffy puppies and their own TV series that they can peddle for your subscription basis, which that's what they're interested in, and that's where all the and you look at some gamers out there that play games, they've got millions of subscribers. Look at PewDiePie. Look at how many subscribers PewDiePie's got. All right, he's been a bit what we call edgy lately, and he's lost a lot of money that he could have made from YouTube, but they've not got rid of him because he's kind of circumventing around the rules. But at the end of the day, David should look at this and think, okay, they've got rid of me, but I'm going to turn this negative into a positive, and I don't need your social networks. The only thing I need your social networks are for me to advertise where I actually am now. And he must have enough contacts to be able to use it in a in a way where he can get the majority of his subscribers over to his website. So it will be interesting to see which way this goes now and what comes from this.
Well, the only thing that's left right now is that he still has an account on Twitter, and he still has an account on Instagram. Those are the two final major players that he has not been banned from. So my prediction is within the next 24 to 48 hours, he will be removed from Twitter and Instagram thereafter. He'll be taken, and then he'll be on all the major social network platforms. He'll be dead. What do you think, Ben?
These companies talk to each other. I want to add that all these large companies, all these social network platforms, they're all interconnected. They all talk to each other, and this is being rolled out in such a way that it's so obvious that it's been agreed. These people are on a list, and they're basically to be terminated, to get rid of. And and there's going to be more. Anyone that talks about coronavirus, that lurgy, anyone that talks about anything that goes, maybe the deaths that are going on, and anyone that talks about this and it doesn't conform to, say the WHO or what their findings are, you'll lose your monetization, and at worst you'll be kicked off. You'll have your channel deleted. YouTube don't care. They don't care that you've got it's your only income or anyone. My advice to anyone that's doing this kind of stuff is don't rely on this as your only income. Have multiple incomes. Do lots of things. Get on many platforms, because the way that YouTube are going now, they're just going to start. People are going to start disappearing, and that's their livelihoods.
What a lot of people are doing, though, and I'll get back to you in a second, Ben. But what a lot of people are doing is they're setting up a YouTube account, but they're not monetizing the account. In other words, they're putting their content on YouTube, but they don't want any money from YouTube whatsoever. Yeah. So even if they have 1 million subs and they're getting hundreds of thousands of views per video, they're not getting any income from video. They're going to like Patreon or crowdfunding or those kind of things to maintain. But it's curious, though, those people that are doing that, are they saying anything controversial? And if they are, even though they're not taking any money from YouTube, could they or would they be banned? What do you think, Ben?
Oh, they, in terms of controversial, I mean, controversial is a completely subjective statement. It doesn't refer to anything factual. It's just a way of describing the way something is perceived by others. As far as your prediction goes, Gareth, unfortunately, it's probably likely to come true, because this happened with Alex Jones. This coordinated shutting, this censorship, this unpersoning of Alex Jones happened over, a period of a couple of days, and it was all the major platforms working together, obviously collaborating to remove him from cyberspace. The good news is that the process that Reeves recommends has already begun. In fact, there are alternatives to the social media platforms that have been created mostly by refugees from those platforms that are available right now. And indeed, I use them myself. I certainly don't put all my eggs in the mainstream social media basket anymore. And so if for any reason I disappear, that's where you'll find me. What are
some of the ones that you would recommend, Ben, or that you currently use?
There's the ones I currently use. Firstly, on Stella, I very much recommend, because it is actually specifically for people with an interest in the UFO, paranormal, conspiratorial subjects. There's others such as gab.ai, which is a kind of alternative to Twitter. There's minds.com, which is a type of Facebook, and there's a video service on it as well. Now it's just started that, and BitChute, which is essentially an alternative YouTube. In case of BitChute, it's a peer-to-peer system, so it's cheap to run, and it's doesn't rely on any sort of host or to play favors with and things like that. It's as far as the controversial issue goes, controversy. One of the actual individual behind the campaign countering on digital hate. What a horrible Orwellian name that is. He basically said, well, it's good they've got rid of David Icke, but he's still, basically, I think he mentioned he's still on Twitter, and we plan to do something about that. I'm paraphrasing him now.
Yeah.
Also, there are other people in the social media who are parroting much of his nonsense. So that means basically people who agree with him on anything particularly. Now, I don't agree with David on everything. I have significant differences with him. I don't when it comes to the coronavirus.
You don't. What? Are you crazy?
Yeah, he gets a few things wrong, Gareth. I mean,
no, surely not, Ben. Surely not.
He's not the son of God. He's a very naughty boy.
Oh,
but he does get some. I mean, as far as the Satan bug goes, he's got a few things wrong about that, and I don't agree with him on everything. But you see, I do agree with him on some other things, and I've been talking about David a lot. So does that mean am I for the job as well?
Well,
that's a question. It's a question everyone has to ask, don't they? It's like,
I think eventually, Ben, they're going to be coming for all of us. I think we're all eventually going to go bye-bye. Whether you have, a couple of hundred subscribers or a couple of 100 million subscribers, if you're not towing the line, you'll be going away.
Yeah, I think it's something we've got to prepare ourselves for, and it looks like they are, and a lot of it's done automatically through AI, which means that there's several times AI, of course, is not that intelligent, so it often does things that really don't make a lot of sense. But I mean, these are not the friendly, cheerful, easygoing locations they used to be. You can't just make videos, put them up anymore, and just say what you want. They're literally being transformed into mainstream and into publications. Now, there's an important legal distinction between a platform and a publisher. The publisher is responsible for what is put onto its output. A platform is not.
Yeah.
Now, these social media giants will not declare themselves to be platforms.
Mm-hmm.
If they did, it'll be a little clause which eliminates all their problems in one fell swoop. But they won't do it because they actually want to have this legal loophole by which they can commit censorship. So, that's something that needs to be addressed in the law, I think. But really, I mean, it's painful to see what used to be something so much fun, that is social media, internet social media, being transformed into some kind of Orwellian classroom where everyone's scared to put their hand up.
Well, yeah, it is in a way.
Sent to the headmaster to get their asses packed.
It kind of it's a lot like people would say, well, YouTube is a private company. And private companies can do whatever they want because they're a private company, right? So it's like a restaurant. You know, if you walk into the restaurant with no shoes and no shirt, the staff at the restaurant can ask you to leave or ban you from the restaurant because it's their establishment. They make the rules, and they're using that same kind of argument for YouTube. But YouTube is in some ways is more of a utility, right? It would, in many ways. Go ahead, Reeves.
Yes. Yes and no. YouTube started out. I've been around on YouTube since YouTube was YouTube. I've seen it grow, and I've seen people start with 10 members, and now I've got millions of members. So I think that it started out more. It was community driven, but now it's turned into the biggest, video streaming, place on the internet where everyone goes to get, you can go to YouTube and you can literally type in anything. Mostly I type about the 1980s and 1970s, but you can pretty much find anything on there. Mm-hmm. And the problem is that it's grown into this giant now where it's more politically motivated. The people that run the company are they look to what is the in, what is politically the thing to do, and at the moment this is the thing that they want to be seen doing, and unfortunately I don't think it's going to change anytime soon, because David Icke's gone, Alex Jones has gone. They're two of the biggest, but there are other big ones on there, and they will get problems. There's lots of people that I wouldn't call them. There's people on YouTube that have got maybe 500,000 subscribers, or and they're not really politically motivated, but because they talk about the wrong things, they get strikes and they lose monetization on their videos. They might spend a whole day creating a video because it needs to make them some money. They put it up online and then it gets a strike because the algorithm finds something in it that it doesn't like, and it's been told to flag, and it gets flagged. And
for no reason to. Well, if
you can't talk to YouTube,
right?
You can't.
There's no way to find out if your video gets banned or flagged or whatever the case. They just say, hey YouTuber, we've banned your video. Thanks, bye.
Yeah.
And there's no way to find out, like, why? What did I do? Did I say the wrong thing? What happened? There's no recourse.
This has happened to me. I can actually give you some experience, because this has happened to me several times. What you do is you write to it, and you get a template reply, which is simply written by a bot. No one's actually seen it. I mean, it's just, and you can tell it's a template reply. Eventually, if you wait long enough, and it's usually about a month or two, you will get someone will actually respond to your complaint. But the thing about it is, if it's, for example, a copyright strike, they will lift the strike and restore the video if you sign a document stating you take full legal responsibility. This includes giving your address to the person.
Yeah, it's like a waiver, isn't it?
Yeah, to the person who made the strike. So you have to dox yourself, essentially, to whoever put the strike on there. Now, of course, copyright ownership is an important issue, and which any publisher has to deal with. The thing about it is that more than 90%, I'm guessing, of, say, flags, whether it's for community guidelines, copyright, or anything else, are spurious. For example, they refer to copyright infringements that are either non-existent or too petty to be consequential. And the reason they're put on there, and it's certainly the case for me, was because someone just doesn't like you, and this is an excuse. Now, the second time, I mean, I also had a defamation strike on one of my videos, which was completely false, and I countered it. This was more than 2 years ago. That video is still, you can't watch it in some countries because of that defamation strike, that false defamation strike.
Unfortunately, Ben, it's the whole way that videos get flagged is what happens these days is if person A has got a large following and doesn't like what person B is talking about, or finds that person B is a threat, or is taking ad revenue from them because their audience is going there, they simply use their audience to go and mass flag their video. It gets taken offline, and they lose the ability to monetize it, and it's kind of this unknown, underhanded war going on YouTube, and it's happened for a long time, and it's being exploited. It's a loophole that's being exploited. And unfortunately, the bigger you grow on a platform like YouTube or a platform like Twitter or Facebook, the bigger you get, the more you're in the public eye, the more you will come under the scrutiny of the people that run the platform. And if they don't like what you're saying, or if they don't think it runs in with what their belief system is, they get rid of you. You're gone.
Wouldn't it?
It's pathetic.
Isn't it like the larger you get on these platforms, once you start getting 100,000, 200,000, 1 million subscribers, at that point you're done. You kind of have to.
Yeah, you have to
comply because if you got 1 million subscribers, or some people's got 5 million subscribers on YouTube, and you start saying things that the company and they like, okay, bye, you're screwed. You're done.
Well, look at the whole the PewDiePie thing. When he sort of started getting edgy, he had he had millions of subscribers, and he lost his YouTube TV series. Right. He lost other sponsors as well, and that's pretty much what sparked the whole adpocalypse, and everyone being mass demonetized en masse, not really worrying about who you were, what you were talking about, what your motivations were. If you said the wrong words,
you're out.
You lost your ability to monetize your work.
I suppose if I was more naive, I would say, well, that's horrid. People shouldn't do that. And of course, I wouldn't do that. But I do. Unlike it seems to be a majority of people, I do have a sense of ethics. But it's just it seems to be normal practice now. And of course, I do make enemies. I mean, I'm outspoken about certain issues. I'm not scared to challenge individuals I think are in error.
How can you make enemies, Ben?
I've made a lot.
How can you make an enemy? It's impossible.
I've made a lot.
I don't believe
people
it.
Who hate my guts. I mean, I've had people who hate my guts, and they don't have a conscience. They're willing to use any means necessary to destroy me, and they have done. And it's a shame. It's sad, but I mean, obviously, that like for example, all my videos that are now unwatchable wherever you are. I mean, it's about 4 of them because of these false flags. We can now get onto BitChute. I mean, by false flags, I mean the other definition, the one we're talking about.
Yeah.
You can now get them on BitChute and Vimeo, others platforms. I will make sure to spread them around so that that's another function I think these alternative platforms have. But it's in a sense, unfortunately, the people who indulge themselves in this kind of childish and very, very spiteful behaviour they're actually assisting the censors. They're assisting the people who are who want to commit censorship for political reasons. So that in a sense, at some point, they're going to be attacked. They're going to be on the chop as well. They're going to be for the chop too.
So you have to think though, like something like YouTube. So when they ban Alex-Jones or they ban David Icke, they take him off the platform. Are they doing it because, well, we don't like what they're saying, it's against our guidelines, that's the end of that? Or are they bowing to pressure from outside?
I think it's outside pressure.
Outside pressure that's coming in and forcing them.
And it's specifically to do with the Satan bug. The Satan bug has changed everything.
What do you think, Reeves?
I agree. I don't know what further I can add, but I do agree that that when YouTube make new policies, like any other platform, they make new policies. They're kind of in line with what the norm is, in what we have today. And it's kind of like you don't dance to their tune, then you're no longer part of the club. You're gone, and it doesn't matter how many followers you've got, or if you're doing a great thing or a great service. It doesn't matter. You're not part of the club. Get out, and that's what's happened.
Yeah, I'm looking back at some of the comments here. We have some people commenting, and Paul Armstrong said something very interesting. He said right here, the wastelands of BitChute are the future of Mindset and Hapanwo. What do you guys think of that?
And I say, firstly, hello, Paul. I know Paul Armstrong. I've even met him, actually. He
Did you really?
exists. Yes, I have met him once. He exists. So thanks for watching, Paul. It's absolutely true. The internet is going to split. It's going to split in two, and we discussed this on the Mindset podcast a couple of times. There is now an attempt by the authoritarian controllers of media to get the internet back into the bottle, because when it first emerged, of course, it was like the printing press when that first came out. It created a revolution in expression. Pamphleteers could suddenly emerge when they couldn't before. But of course, the authorities realized this was a threat, so they cracked down. And in fact, in ancient China, you could actually be very severely punished for owning a printing press that was not licensed by the government. This included execution. You could have your head cut off for it. It seems like today's society is doing the same way with the modern equivalent to the printing press, which is the internet. When it first came out, and I've been using the internet since at least 2005, and it's really, in the early days, it feels like it was. I feel nostalgic for the early days of the internet, because you could just say what you want. Yeah, it was the Wild West, and now the sheriff's in town and he wants to turn it into a sort of more civilized, quote unquote, environment. And yeah, we've got to head out for the wastelands again. Luckily, the technology today allows us to do that. We have ways and means of doing it. There are people who are trained to use these means in ways that I myself would not be, to create an environment where dissidents can once again flourish. And I think Paul's right. At some point, there's going to be a complete bifurcation between Internet 1 and Internet 2. Yeah. Internet 1 is going to where the cat videos are, and all the little tweets about your makeup and your holidays.
Nothing wrong with cat videos. Nothing wrong with cat videos.
Reeves
Internet 2 is going to be where the interesting stuff is.
There's two things that Reeves likes: 80s and cat videos. Okay, so let's not go there.
There's no shortage of cat videos.
Another comment.
And then I'm denying any threat.
Another comment by longtime Mindset listener George McKinley. George says, surely YouTube should just be a free platform. If the owners start deciding who can post, then that's an issue and means they are trying to control the debate. What do you guys think of that?
I actually would be willing to sign a legal disclaimer taking full responsibility for everything I publish, unconditionally. If YouTube would only let me, I reckon most content creators would be willing to do that. And then YouTube can simply declare themselves a platform, and that's the end of it. Why won't they? Why won't they do that? It's because I think they want to censor. They are being an extension of the state, despite being a private company.
And it's amazing to me how, now that Icke is gone, how many people in mainstream media are coming out and applauding it and saying, "Oh, this finally, I'm glad they got that guy. That guy's crazy. We need to get him off the air. Get him. We don't want him broadcasting. This is wrong." So many people have come forward to say this in mainstream media. Have you noticed that?
I've noticed that what you've said in a way, but I also find that it's laughable. It's comedy, because to say that person's gone, he doesn't deserve. I understand where that there will be a minority of people who will listen to someone and they'll take everything they say as gospel, and they will act upon. For example, if I went and made a YouTube and said that I was, Blib Blob from the planet Zog, and that I was here on a mission and that I needed followers, and as followers
Blib Blob.
I had to Blib Blob, and I had needed money for my pet Sasquatch, that he would go on missions
called Derek,
and that he would I needed money for it. People would give me money, and there's people out there because they will believe what I'm saying. I'm
Right.
not saying that everyone's an idiot or anything. I'm just saying that it's just the nature. It's human nature. And the problem is that where you have someone like Ike who does talk about some very wild stuff sometimes,
Yeah.
real fringe stuff, you know, you can either go, okay, that's what you believe and that's what your followers believe, that's fine. You know, I haven't, you know, but when you start to censor people and say, no, you can't talk about that, there's the problem. It's like, well, you don't talk about this. And what will be interesting is if when Ike does go and moves to a completely different platform, because we've seen it with other websites that are what I would call independent, free-thinking websites where they have other people move there, and then those websites, they take, you know, something happens and that website goes under. There was one a while ago, I think Ben would know what it was. They had, when we had the apocalypse, they went to this different alternative video sharing site, and they couldn't continue anymore because they had the basically the rug pulled under their feet, and that was it. They had to close down. VidMe, that was it. And you know, there's always that. The best way to do it is just to move everything to your own domain, to your own servers, which you've got control of, and do it that way. It's going to go back to internet version 1.0. I know that you still are at the hands of ISPs and people blocking IPs and blocking you countries from accessing it, and not everyone knows what a VPN is or how to switch IPs or anything like that. So yeah.
But you still, even if you do all that, Reeves, you still have to find some way of letting people know that you exist. You still have to advertise in a way to get the message out there.
The way that you do that is to use sites like YouTube, like Twitter, to simply advertise the fact that you're still around. You're not making you do it in such a way that they can't remove your videos because you're not breaking any rules, because you're not talking about a particular thing on their platform.
They said, though, with Ike, I read that, they deleted his channel, and they've set it up in such a way where he cannot make duplicate channels.
Yeah, but other people can, and other people can talk about him, and other people can direct other people to a place where they can view his videos. And if people, you know, who's in charge at the end of the day? It's all right. YouTube are the people. We're using YouTube as an example, but pretty much all social media is the same. But YouTube, use it as an example. Yes, they are the people pulling the strings, and they're the people that can put their finger on the button and they can nuke your channel as they want it. But they can't do that to every single person upon mass if they choose to do it. So the people are in control. But the fact is that you've got to be organized, and you've got to know, you've got to have a plan. You just can't randomly, you know, it's like going out and protesting in the street and just running around like a maniac.
Yeah.
And then you think, well, I didn't get anything done. Well, it's because you're not organized. But the fact is that if you think about what you're doing and move it all to a single place on the internet, I think that's going to be David's best option. It's to do what Alex Jones has done.
Yeah, he's going to follow. I think he's going to try and follow the Alex Jones model of getting it off there. I think what's his name, Brian Rose of London Real, will probably be following that model also. Just had a message from George McKinley. What does the bottom of your T-shirt say, Gareth? I was thinking today we have a Scottish government giving us broadcasts every day. It's a bit like being told what to think. Very 1984. My T-shirt says, "Make Orwell fiction again." Right? You know, it's a play on the whole "Make America Great Again," but make Orwell fiction again, because sadly, a lot of what George Orwell wrote about / predicted in 1984, back in 1948, is coming true. Sadly. And that's something we'd like to avoid.
We have the Ministry of Truth. We literally have David Icke being put down the memory hole.
Yes.
And the intention is to eliminate him from people's minds. So it won't work, luckily.
Well, the thing is, Ben, just to add, you say something there regarding Icke, Alex Jones. Let's be honest, the only people that still remember and talk about Alex Jones are the people that actually follow him, that actually want to hear what he's got to say. He's not a talking point. I mean, there are loads of videos about him on YouTube popping up, and he's mental or doing this, or he's been, none of that anymore. None of that, which is kind of a good thing, because it gets rid of that kind of static. And if you want what he's doing, go to his website.
Yeah. That's a good point, Reeves. Alex-Jones was incredibly famous 5 years ago because he was on every social media platform. Now he's gone from every social media platform. How does that work for him, right? Because new people coming into YouTube or into conspiracy or alternate thought or free thinking, they're not going to stumble across Alex anymore.
No,
they're not in the same way.
They're not going to find him the same way, right?
They won't even find him on search engines. Google has changed their search engine algorithms now.
They need to know where to look, right? They need to know where to go to see his content.
It's like shadow banning, yeah.
Yeah, and the same thing's going to happen with Icke. I mean, if you're in the know, right? If you're in the know and you're reading the books and you're thinking about these topics, you're going to find out who these people are, and you're going to go ahead and seek them out and find their stuff. But if you're Mr. and Mrs. Joe Average out there living a normal life, eating pizza, drinking beer, and watching the sport, you're not going to find these people. You're not going to know they exist, and you're not going to stumble across a video that might plant a seed and make you think, oh, I never thought of that before, and lead you down a path of more free thinking. That's not going to happen any longer, right? What do you think?
Nevertheless, I mean, it's true that the system, the algorithms, that is, in other words, the way that Google and other search engines direct you to where you want to be on the internet, or try and assess where you want to go, because they try and guess in advance from you're essentially put on an algorithm yourself, which judges what you want. But the way it works is they shadow ban people by deliberately lowering you on your profile, so you're less likely to come across you. However, if somebody who really is interested will find you, they can't stop you finding you. Now, I myself have been shadow banned. I'm certain of it. And I've made a video about it. It's a long story, but I'm certain I've been shadow banned. David is going to have to change his tactics. He's going to have to change the way he presents himself, as Alex has done. Alex has had to do the same thing. But I don't think this is certainly not going to completely remove them from people's view. I mean, people will find them. People looking into certain topics will come across them. As it's just you're less likely to, like you said, Gareth, if you're just an ordinary person, a normie, in other words, who doesn't have an interest, you're not going to come across them by accident like you used to. That's the problem. But if you you only have to take the first step, and there's a snowball effect.
Right.
Because once you've taken that first step, you will come across one video, then another, and
not anymore.
There's no. Really, they actually stop you completely.
Now it's going to be a real challenge for that to happen. What you just described, Ben, was very accurate a year or two ago, where you could discover knowledge and think about things that you'd never thought about before by accident, just surfing the internet or the web or search YouTube and stumbling across a video and like, oh, I never knew that. What's this guy talking about? And stumbling onto these ideas. Whereas the more they tighten their grip, the more systems will stress through your fingers. The more it'll be harder for them to find.
I'll do a little experiment. I'll just got a browser here which doesn't have any cookies on. I know it doesn't have any cookies. I'll just wait for it to open. I'll just try it and see what happens. Because it's true they're gonna. I mean, how successful can they be? With these. You carry on, Reeves, so I'll do this one.
The way it will work is that if you go on YouTube, you can go into Google right now and you can type in David Icke, and he'll come back on page 1 pretty much at the top. But over the coming weeks and months, his page rank will drop, and he'll start moving down the search returns, and he'll be on page 2, page 3. Most people don't look beyond the 3rd page on Google. If they're looking for something, they'll look on a couple of pages, and then they'll change their search term, and they'll use other keywords. So the problem is, once you're down there on page 5, 6, you're in no man's land. You're very. I remember back in the old days of YouTube, I would go on to Dulce-based stuff and things like that. You'd type it in and you'd have a whole host of stuff. You'd have like UFO stuff. You'd have like Jordan Maxwell popping up. All that stuff would be popping up, and it's all interconnected. And it would all, once you started watching it, it would all come at the side of your screen telling you other things that were recommended. And there's none of that anymore. If you type in something, fringe, and it comes up on the screen, when your suggested turns, it's nothing relevant to what you're really interested in. The way that it's changed so much now, and I think that creators on YouTube, even as I say, even creators that play video games or review products, they're having a really, really tough time of it. And if you're going to be someone like Icke or Alex Jones, you're playing with fire. Because at the end of the day, I understand that you should be able to go onto YouTube and create an account and talk about whatever you want. And then the public will deem whether you're talking nonsense or not, because you'll get people following you. You won't get people following you. If I want to go on there and say that, I'm a spaceman or whatever, then that's fair enough. People will say, "Oh, tell me more." But that's the way it is now, and it's going back to what it was, 20 years ago, where you would, if you wanted to be someone with a presence, and a video was different back then, but it was it was a lot harder and a lot more expensive to set up that kind of setup. But they were around. Internet TV channels and stuff were around, and I think that what content creators that like David Icke, like Alex Jones, like London Real, what they should be doing. I know London Real have got their own video servers, but they should be getting together and saying, look, we need to create a proper network that people can come on and move around and see all the stuff. A little bit like what the People's Voice sort of thing, but in a more organized fashion.
I was hoping you weren't going to go there with the People's Voice.
Well, I had to because
open that can of worms for that fiasco.
No, that is a can of worms. But yeah.
But I want to check in on Ben to see how his experiment went, and then I want to touch on I want to go down the London Real rabbit hole and talk a little bit about that and what your thoughts are on that. So how did it go, Ben, with your experiment?
I put in Ben the JR Porter, which is my YouTube channel. It did appear. I put in Hospital Porter's New World Order, and I found that I was once on the first page. There was one reference to myself. All the others were like Hospital Porters and New World Order separately, rather than together. So I don't know if that's significant. Now, on what subject, what Reeves were talking about, I was wondering. I do agree that solution what Reeves talks about is for us to have an independent setup rather than relying on what exists. But is legal reform necessary here? Are we looking at something that President Trump was talking about a couple of years ago, which was basically a Bill of Rights for our cyberspace life, which matches the one in our normal life, in real life existence? Now, because it's obvious that the internet is behaving exactly as people did have to suffer in the real world before we had the various legal and lawful rights. I don't know if you guys... I'm thinking about it. I'm not sure what the answer is, but I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
So there's only two options. One is, like you said, legal reform, where they make these platforms like a utility service, like your electricity or your telephone, or something that's essential. They go along that path. That's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it, which is probably the most likely way, is for people just to leave these platforms and go elsewhere. Now, the challenge with that is, if the likes of you or I were to leave YouTube and go to BitChute, then it would be crickets, right? Nobody gives a shit about us. No one cares. But if you have, say 10 or 20 big YouTube stars, people who have millions and millions of subscribers, if they were to say, hey, next Monday I'm canceling my YouTube account, I'm moving all my videos to BitChute, here's the URL, essentially their millions and millions of their audience would go with them, and that would then start the exodus and the flow to the other platform. And at that point, YouTube would start to panic and change things significantly because they would see, be like rats leaving a sinking ship. It would change things significantly. But whether or not a scenario like that would happen if you had big high profile YouTubers, announce and then leave YouTube to go to another platform, I have no idea, no clue.
It would have to be something that happened with multiple large, should we say, when you get that famous, I think you become an influencer, don't you? They class you as an influencer,
right.
rather than just a YouTube celebrity, an e-celeb. I think what is it, if you've got over 8,000 followers on YouTube or something like that, 6,000 or 8,000, you're classed as an e-celeb. So it's not that difficult to get up there. But the problem is you're not an influencer. You're an influencer if you're someone that's got the millions of subscribers.
It's like, what's his name? Casey Neistat. He has, I don't know, like 10 million, 15 million subscribers.
Yeah.
Huge amount of subscribers.
And you can make.
Now, if he was to say, yeah, I'm going to BitChute, and I'm going to be publishing all my content there, he would take 15 million people from YouTube to BitChute overnight.
And especially when you're, if you're what I call a generic broadcaster, where you're just basically reviewing, just a live streamer, a vlogger, whatever you want to call it, promoting makeup. Those are the people that YouTube want. They want their platform full of stuff like that. They don't want people talking about conspiracies or crooked governments, or they don't care, because the people that are doing that for them are the mainstream news. That's all they want. If you look at all the news channels that the mainstream news channels that have presences on YouTube, they're all the ones that get the top place. They're all on the front page because that's who they want there. Anyone saying anything different, you get a boot up your ass.
Yeah. So Ben has vanished. There he is. There's Ben's empty chair.
He's going to get his his takeaway must have arrived.
He's going to get his dragon juice, I think. I was just looking through some of the comments.
Here he comes. To fight the dragon and then milk the dragon.
There's Ben. How you feeling, Ben? Better?
Sorry, guys. Yeah, I had to snip out for a moment.
Relieve yourself.
I fell behind there. Oh, it's got a few things I had to do. Yeah, but so I didn't hear. I've obviously fallen behind a little bit in this conversation.
I was just looking at Richard Davis, who's my brother. He wrote shrouded.
Hi, Richard.
Shrouded hand here, which I thought was hilarious. And also he wrote something else equally funny when we were talking about which platforms are good to take over from YouTube. He said the Pornhub is a good platform. So,
Pornhub. Yeah.
I don't have any videos of myself on there.
Yeah, I don't know. When you said you were shadow banned, I thought maybe you were from Pornhub. I don't know.
But unless someone's made some videos secretly, I don't know.
Gosh. I don't know.
In which case I'll charge.
Keep your eye on, Ben. Keep your eye on. Don't get crazy.
Yeah, Roger Salzberger says something really cool too. He's talking about library. The cool thing is on the library or BitChute, at last you get to see real numbers, not some made up BS. In fact, Ben, I think privately a few weeks ago we talked about library and getting that set up to transfer all your stuff. I don't know whether have you done that yet, or
I've actually set up an account on there.
Oh, cool.
I'm already in touch with Heidi Neal, who is another person who's moved onto these kind of platforms. So I've already in touch with her, but I haven't actually uploaded anything yet. It's looking a bit kind of beta. And it's obviously this often happens with new systems. So it's finding it a bit hard to use. It's a bit unresponsive.
It's a bit techy. You got to know what you're doing. But the beauty of library is once you get it set up and configured, you don't need to fool with it anymore. You can still use YouTube, but everything you put on YouTube is automatically copied over to library. You don't have to do anything. So everything is taken over right off the bat. So you can still use YouTube as your primary focus, but library is going to back up everything and publish it and keep that up and running. So that's something that I'm considering doing too. Moving. I mean, I don't have a lot of videos. I have a lot of like the Mindset Podcast audio and stuff that I've put up on YouTube. But I think as we delve more into video, maybe do some more video, start doing that. I want to bring up London Real. Now this is a website that has kind of, for me at least, living in LA, for me it's kind of come out of nowhere, right? Up until maybe a year ago, maybe a year or something like that. I had no clue they existed, and I kind of stumbled across them by accident when they first had David Icke on as a guest, and
Right.
I watched the interview. I thought it was a very good interview, but I'm going to go to Reeves for this. I think Reeves has a good angle on this, because Brian Rose, the guy who's hosting, I really don't know what to make of him. I mean, every minute he's got some crazy suit on, or he's running around shirtless. He's filming himself every second, talking about the London Real Army, which is it's from my perspective, and obviously I don't know him. I don't know, but just watching the videos, it's a bit off-putting. I don't know. What do you think, Reeves?
I think for London Real, they've been around for a while, and he's had some, he's had some proper guests on there, and he has built up quite a formidable outfit, and he does know what he's doing, and he's not one of these kind of, he asks proper questions, and he is one of these people that he likes to look at all sides of the story. But I think that the whole David Icke thing is an opportunity for him to grow quite quickly, and maybe it's David is for him an opportunity to grow his channel and grow his ability to get to more people, and get David's audience to maybe move on board with the London Real audience. But I think that I don't want to see is David Icke has done a lot. He's a very independent person. He kind of writes his books, he does his lectures. Right. He hardly uses like phones and stuff. He just does his own thing. And I wouldn't want to see him, even though I don't agree with everything he talks about, I wouldn't want to see him get, not to say taken advantage of, but maybe I feel that I'm going to go back to it again because it is a can of worms and it's been opened. We go back to the People's Voice. I do think that David Icke was used there as an icon, as a individual who had influence for many people, and it was all very mismanaged. There was the wrong people doing the organisation, and that's why it all went down the toilet. And I think this is an opportunity for David to maybe work with people like London Real, maybe Alex Jones, to network with them, but to mainly establish himself as his own core thing, and create something that is just himself. But as I say, it's just my opinion, and it will be interesting to see which way this goes in the coming months.
What do you think, Ben? I mean, when you look at like Brian Rose, he's like a Stefan Molyneux in a suit.
I always compare him more to Joe Rogan, but there's some similarities. He's actually had Molyneux on. I've been watching. He's actually been around for quite a bit longer than you might think, because I've been watching him now for about 4 or 5 years.
Really? Wow.
He has some very interesting people on. Like he had Graham Hancock on. He did a very good interview with Graham Hancock.
He's like, next week on London Real, we're gonna have a very special guest. My tailor is going to sit in, and I'm going to talk to him for 4 hours on how I make my suits.
He's a lot better dressed than Joe Rogan, I must say. But he's I always think of him as a British Joe Rogan, although he's not. He's actually comes from New York City. He's American by birth, but he lives in London. But he's like he's not. He had like also Peter Joseph of the Zeitgeist movement on.
Red pilling people.
Yeah. And of course, his profile has increased over time as he's produced what I think is very often good quality content. And I don't watch every interview. He does interviews with people I've never heard of most of the time. But every so often he comes out with some good material and some good interesting people. And so I've always had an interest in him. I've always liked him. And the other guy, he used to work with someone else who's now not in it. But I can't remember his name, but he had another guy with him. And they used to do some really good dialogues with people. They used to have trilogues with some of the guests.
So where's he going? Where is he going with this, though? I mean, he's obviously as much as David is using him he's using David, right, to publicize London Real.
Well, I hope
to
it's a
push it
two-way
out.
thing.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it is, and
I
that's
think they
fine.
both benefit from it.
No, of
Yeah,
course,
I'm sure
yeah, and they have absolutely every right to do that. Now, before he was cut off today after like what was it, Ben? Like 30 minutes before they pulled the plug on him, something like that.
It was just under half an hour. He was
And,
the YouTube pulled right in the middle of the live stream. They pulled it right in the middle of the live stream.
Yeah, they pulled the live stream, and at the time of him being pulled, he had 90,000 people viewing or something like that.
I didn't look and see.
It was which is like the highest streaming video in YouTube's history.
There was extraordinary interest. I mean, there was an extraordinary level of interest. I mean, I was looking all over Twitter and that. It was
maybe that's
David Icke
why
was trending.
they pulled the plug. Maybe that's
David
why
Icke was
they
trending like 1,000 an hour, trending on Twitter.
Yeah.
Sorry,
maybe that's why. Maybe that's why they pulled the plug on David Icke, because they thought, this is getting out of hand. There's too many people watching. He's going to be on the front page, whether we can't control it. People are going to question. So maybe.
And then, of course, them pulling it like this. I mean, that's what I hope will happen is people just say, forbidden fruit. Let's have a look. Let's have some of that.
Well,
that's what I'm hoping will happen.
Well, I tried to download the stream. I couldn't get. I mean, all his other appearances on London Rail, I was able to. I was able to download the video so I could have my own personal copy. I could not get a copy of this one yet. I'll try and do it later on today. But I think it's very important in these times where YouTube are banning people, deleting their channels, deleting content. I think it's very important for people who are interested in these things, not just to stream it, not just to watch it, but to actually archive it, to download the video locally to your machine and keep a local copy for yourself.
I do that.
Because these things are going to go away.
I do that with as many things as I can, as I can actually have space for. And it's been good because I have a copy of David's second interview. I've downloaded a couple of other things I thought were a bit vulnerable. Like, do you remember Unlawful Killing, the Keith Allen film about Princess Diana?
Yes, yeah.
I managed to download that because it's now freely available, but when I downloaded it, this was just after the Cannes Film Festival where it had premiered.
It was banned for a while,
and it was vanishing everywhere.
Right.
I mean, the director himself said, "Look, just spread this as far as you can and download it if you can." And I managed to download a copy. Literally minutes after I downloaded it, I went back to the link and it was gone. So it does. These things I think, are important. If you download it and then you realise it was not necessary, you can always delete it. I mean, you don't have to keep it. But it may be, you're right, Gareth. I mean, if you can download these things, you can. I know you can download from the House Player, LR's House Player, because I did it for the second Icke interview. So good luck with that.
There's lots of pieces of software that you can download. I use YouTube.dl, which is a command line program. It's open source, and that works incredibly well. You can pull down anything as an MP4 directly from YouTube. I strongly recommend people doing that. In fact, I was doing it on Alex Jones's channel before he got yanked from YouTube. So I have a pretty good archive of Alex's stuff before he was yanked off the air. So yeah, I think it's definitely something that people should consider doing because it's coming. We're going to get to a point where expression of free thought publicly is going to be severely curtailed. Now, I know that there's going to be people watching this and listening to this and thinking, you're out of your mind. That's nonsense. That's not going to happen. And admittedly, it's not going to happen tomorrow, right? This is good, but we are eventually going to get to that world.
It will be done very slowly.
Every arrow, everything that's happening is pointing in that direction.
Yeah, it will be very slowly, and what it will be is when you come to YouTube, they'll change their terms and conditions. You have to sign up for you have to agree to certain things, certain videos you can make, certain videos you can't make. I mean, they're always changing their terms and conditions all the time anyway. And let's be honest, how many people will actually sit, unless you're a full-on content creator and it's your, even if you're not conspiracy minded, you need to read all that stuff. And at the end of the day, you can't. Nothing will change overnight. It's going to be little things. Little things will change, and you'll notice that you won't see people like David Icke or people that talk about different things in your feed anymore. They'll all disappear. Even, I mean, it all started a long time ago. This all started a long time ago, when maybe 3 or 4 years ago, when content creators were complaining that subscribers were magically vanishing from their channel.
Yeah.
And they were getting unsubscribed.
I've been unsubbed.
That still happens today, though, right? There's many channels where people are automatically unsubscribed for whatever reason. Because I've noticed a lot of YouTube creators, they'll say, subscribe and hit the bell icon and blah, 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 and check if you are subscribed. Because even if you were subscribed before, you might not be now.
Yeah. I go back and I check them. And some channels I've not looked at for a while, I've been unsubscribed from, and it's that's pretty awful. It is what Reeves said is happening. It is happening in increments. Now it's pretty obvious from this is that the people who want to censor us, and it's no doubt this is an intention to commit censorship. It's not just, oh no, what we're going to do, we're legally responsible, blah blah blah. No, it is intentional to silence certain opinions. Yeah. The Satan bug has been exploited for this completely and utterly. They've picked up this ball and they've run with it. The whole reason, I say excuse, not reason. The whole excuse they have.
One second, man. You've said a couple of times you've used the word the Satan bug during this conversation. Yes. Can you explain what you mean by that?
The reason I'm using it is it's just an alternative to the very word, which I'm concerned about using online, simply because the bots could pick it up.
Are you talking about the lurgy?
The lurgy Satan. We know what we're talking about here. It has been picked up and it's been run with by the. This is just saying, right, they're not saying, oh dear, David Icke's mentioned this. David Icke's talking about the Satan bug, he's spreading misinformation. Oh dear, we don't want to. We've never looked at it. We've never heard of this guy before, but now we have to do this. No, it's, oh thank goodness, David Icke has just done something which gives us the pretext to eliminate him from social media.
Yeah.
That's what, and they'll do the same to anyone. They'll do the same to all of us.
This is interesting too. Paul Armstrong just posted 3 hours of Icke. No thanks. And I'm assuming he's not a fan of his turquoiseness. Good old David Icke. And
George, you are, aren't you?
I've also noticed, and I don't know if you guys have noticed this too, I've also noticed that a lot of people, including you, Reeves, I've heard you say this a couple of times today too, is when you start talking about David Icke, and it's not just you, tons of people do this, but you start talking about David Icke, and even though you're supporting him, you're like, but I don't agree with everything he says.
No, I don't, because I think a lot there are things that he goes on about, that he goes off on tangents, and I think that I think to myself, why are you talking about that? But everyone's different. Everyone thinks about different things, and everyone has their own beliefs. But he does, he does go off on these kind of weird journeys sometimes when he has he's talking about certain things, and he'll suddenly go off onto something different. And this is another thing with his live shows. You get super value for money because you spend X amount of pounds on a ticket. Yeah, he's going to be on that stage for 8-9 hours.
Yeah, for sure.
It is a marathon.
It's wonderful. I know Ben has been to multiple of his shows. I've been to a few of his shows here in the States, and even if you think he's mental and you think he's crazy and you're not into it and you think, oh my God, he's not 100% in the head. If he comes to your town or your city or wherever you may live, I would strongly recommend you go. Even if you think he's out of his mind, just go as a goof. Just go thinking it'll be a fun couple hours, and you might come out of his show with a different opinion. What do you think, Ben?
Absolutely, I recommend. He does a great live performance. It's an all-day event mostly. I mean, he does shorter ones these days. The last one I went to see was in Newcastle upon Tyne, and it was like a 3-hour event in the evening. But he used to do, like, as Reeves said, 12-hour gigs at the Brixton Academy, things like that. Mm-hmm. It's something you don't have to agree on everything he says. I mean, my own view on the Satan bug is actually quite. I've got into a bit of trouble over this. I say trouble. It's a shame I even have to use that word referring to the alternative community. Mm-hmm. But compared to most of the conspiracy sphere, my opinion of the Satan bug is actually quite mainstream.
The Satan bug.
But an alternative. The thing is,
That sounds like a kind of film that you would get in the 80s.
It is.
At the
It is a
video
film.
shop. When all the other films, when
There,
E.T.
he's got it right there. Look, there's the book.
And yeah, there you
The
go.
Satan Bug.
And yeah, that could be a VHS case, and you could hire it for £1.50 for 2 nights.
For 2 nights.
Yeah, it's a book by Alistair MacLean, and it's been made into a movie in 1965. This is from '62. It was made in a good film, actually. You can get it on YouTube. The thing about it is, my opinion of it is actually quite mainstream compared to most of the conspiracy. However, from the mainstream point of view, from the purely mainstream blue pill point of view, I'm still a conspiracy nut. So I'm kind of on the bridge, being shot at from both sides at the moment.
Blue pilling people.
David has actually said a few things about the Satan bug, which I believe is incorrect. For example, he claims there's not a virus, and there is a virus.
He says that it doesn't exist. That this is all nonsense, all make believe. That the lurgy, the Satan bug, the whatever you want to call it, is fantasy. But mainstream media paints it that he's saying that 5G causes the Satan bug. And he said publicly, nope, that's not the case. It's not. 5G doesn't cause anything as far as viruses.
Yeah, he's actually. This is something that I've talked about with people online. That 5G actually, that the virus is actually a red herring, and the symptoms that people experience are caused by 5G. I mean, I personally think that the 5G actually indirectly may well cause this problem because of its effects on the human body, our breathing, our immune system, and things like that. However, it's not a direct cause. There is a virus. There is a virus. I suspect it was released from the National Biological Clinic, or whatever, the National Biological Laboratory in Wuhan, whatever it's called, probably accidentally, not on purpose, because it seems to have come from one spot. Whereas if this was deliberate infection, it would be in several places. But David has made several other things. Now they're claiming some things he said are wrong. You can catch it from shaking hands with somebody. That is true. But I mean, I also, it is true that the 5G again is a problem. But the fact of the matter is, even if that's the case, even if David has got that wrong, it doesn't justify in one tiny bit what was done to him. Just it's not. He says it's a public health risk because of misinformation. Nonsense. There's no reason why this situation should be any different from any other.
Well, so going back to what I was saying earlier, when we had you saying about the 5G, we did have the incident where individuals or groups of individuals were going around and setting the 5G masts on fire, and burning them.
They were setting antennas on fire.
Antennas, yeah. Fair enough if that's their motivation, and but the problem is that I feel that at one point, if you're going around doing that other people could get hurt. That mast could collapse. It could, I know I'm talking of what ifs and maybes, but it shows the power that people have over what I was saying earlier. That some people will, but they will not do their own research. They will just, that someone will say it and they'll go, well, it's obviously true because this person has got X amount of followers. So I'm just going to go with what they're saying.
What you've just described there, though, Reeves, is exactly how most people behave in regard to mainstream news, right? Mainstream media.
Yeah,
there's
the media as well.
There's not a thought in their head. Some guy comes on TV wearing a suit, reading a teleprompter. He tells you a bunch of stuff, and immediately you're like, "Oh, okay, there you go. That's what's happening." Not a single thought in your head. You just accept it blindly, right off the bat.
Yeah. And what
the criticism that's been levelled at people like David could be levelled at the mainstream media.
Exactly.
Indeed, applies much more to them.
Exactly.
Now it's true there were some attacks on antennas. Now they weren't necessarily 5G antennas. They could have been any kind of antenna. Several engineers were also abused in the streets and things like that. I've always insisted that people obey the law, and David has never encouraged anyone to break the law. And to hold him accountable for this is I think unfair. It is completely unfair to say that somehow he intentionally caused this to happen.
No, but the thing is, Ben, it's convenient. For example, what happened with the 5G masts, for a company like YouTube, it's convenient and good for that to happen, because they can then turn around and go, well, look, this is what's happening. We don't want people like this on our platform, and they're using it against. I've watched. I have watched a lot of David's video. He's never condoned anything like that. He's never condoned any violence or anything. He's never said anything like that. I've never heard him say anything.
Not just that, though, Reeves. There's a ton of stuff that's been attributed to David that
he's never done.
He's never said, right?
Yeah.
What's the one he says about the Jews? Or he says which he's never said, right?
Yeah.
This is actually in the news. It says here, in one interview, Mr. Icke falsely claimed that a Jewish group was behind the Satan bug. Now, what's he talking about? Is he talking about a synagogue of some kind? Is this the chief rabbi's office? What point has David ever claimed that a Jewish group was behind this pandemic?
Oh,
and how does that make sense? Is it something that's interpreted as a Jewish group? If so, is it the fact that it's Jewish relevant to Mr. Icke's accusations?
Well, as far as I know, Ben, he's never said anything of the sort. Nothing.
I've never heard him say that.
Never. I've read a bunch of his books. I've never heard him say anything like that in his books. I've never seen him say it on any videos. I've never seen it anywhere. But yet there it is in the news.
The BBC don't provide a source for this. I mean, they literally just say in an interview. They don't say which one.
Right.
They don't provide a link. There's nothing here at all for anyone to go and fact check what the BBC have told us.
Yeah.
They're just going along with it like that certain people have been saying that David Icke hates Jews. I went to a live show of one idiot who made this claim. For 2 hours he tried to convince us of this. And I had great satisfaction making a review of his talk where I completely discredited him.
Was this that Warman guy? What was his name?
No, this was Marlon Solomon.
You went to one of his presentations?
Yeah. He appeared at a theatre in Oxford, and I went along to watch him. And I was extremely dismayed. It was 2 hours of complete distortion, and I said so.
Yeah. Did you? Was it a Q&A? Were you able to stand up and say, no, nothing like that?
No, then he didn't have anything like that. No.
But from what he was saying, though, Ben, I mean, someone who's familiar with Icke's work, was it like 99% just made up nonsense, or did he say some stuff that was legit?
It was a complete. He said. I don't think he said a single thing that was true in all those 2 hours. He completely misrepresented and misinterpreted David's position. He claimed it was the usual story. It's been going around for 20 years. In fact, Richard Warman, believe it or not, is still after David Icke. It's unbelievable. It's more than 20 years now. He's still having a go at David. The idea that when he says lizards, he means Jews. When no, he actually means lizards. But they know they supposedly code words and things like that.
Even John Ronson, in that documentary, he said no. When David says lizards, he means lizards, not Jews.
It's ludicrous. It's ludicrous that this is still going on. It seems to come in waves. It seems to ebb and flow.
Yeah.
And at the moment, we're on the ascendant of the curve. Hopefully, it'll wear off in a little while and go back to normal. I don't know, but obviously, this is convenient for the people who, as David says, he's getting too close to the truth, and they want to assassinate his character.
Do you think that's what it is, though? He's getting too close.
Yes, despite his mistakes, he is.
What do you think, Reeves?
Well, usually, if a platform deplatform you and remove you from their platform, you're clearly saying something that doesn't make them feel very comfortable, or you are gaining traction because they can see by looking at the algorithms and looking at the traction to his channel, if he's getting more popular or not. Is he growing him, because of all this lurgy talk, and he's been talking about it. They're thinking, we don't want these people to have, these large amounts of people following them. We don't want them on our platform. So they removed them. And I think that at the end of the day, I think that you're starting to see what these large platforms are really all about. And if you're going to come to a place in 2020 if you want to set up a channel and talk about making models or collecting stamps or whatever, that's fine. You'll if you put the work in, you'll do well. But if you come to these kind of platforms and start talking about fringe politics, alternative thinking, even alternative medicine, you're going to be gone. You're not going to gain any traction because no one's going to see you.
Yeah. I think you're right. It's strange how just like someone just saying an opinion, an alternate opinion, is you can't do it. It's being stopped. This is true censorship. This is absolute true censorship. What they're doing is they're trying to keep control of the narrative. There's a narrative at play here that's running through reality, that they're playing in this narrative. And any alternate narrative that paints reality in a different way, they have to stop that. They can't let another narrative get a foothold, because that eventually would mean their demise. It's the same with software. I mean, Facebook was the biggest social media platform in the world.
Yeah.
And then along came this other one called Instagram, and Instagram kept growing and growing and growing. And Facebook took notice of Instagram, and they noticed that if we don't do anything, if we just sit back and let this happen, pretty soon Instagram is going to be the number one social media platform, and it's going to be the end of us.
Yeah.
So they either had to destroy Instagram or purchase Instagram.
Or buy it, yeah.
So they purchased Instagram.
Yeah.
And now the threat is over. And that it's the same thing with how we describe reality, right? You have one narrative that's being pumped out by the mainstream media. This is the way the world works. This is how everything functions. This is what reality is. Anything alternate to that kind of converges with it either has to be destroyed or co-opted.
Have you noticed, Ben? I'm asking this to Ben because obviously he watches the British news, and I don't know if he's been watching the Lurgy updates every day. But have you noticed, Ben, that when the government do their daily talk on the deaths and everything, have you noticed that they always reiterate stay inside?
Yes.
They always reiterate certain things. Practice social distancing, and they keep saying it. They keep until you get to a point where you don't hear it anymore. It's like you're kind of being programmed in a way. You're being programmed to hear these things without actually hearing them. So it's in your head, and it's being replayed all the time. It's like 3 different sentences they always say on every broadcast. It's these 3 things they say, 3 or 4 things, and they always say it. It's always worked in there every time.
They have entire organisations of psychologists who work to produce things. Stay home, save lives.
Yeah,
is now a slogan which is everywhere. It's like the keep calm and carry on thing in the war. It's done for that very purpose, to almost become to rewire our thought processes. I actually, unlike some people in the truth movement, like I said, I think there is that the Satan bug is not something we should ignore and do nothing.
No.
At the same time, the way that it's being exploited by the state is appalling. It's appalling that they're taking advantage of something.
I will say that normally on a Sunday, you have the trade-in laws over here where shops can only open for 6 hours a day from 10 till 4. I believe, and I wouldn't be surprised that once this whole lockdown starts to get loosened, that will be abolished, and that on a Sunday will be normal trading hours, and there'll be a lot of shops that will be staying open a lot later and maybe opening a lot earlier as well. Because the way it's going, this whole lockdown thing, it can't go on forever, and it can't be sustained forever. And even people now, as I said at the beginning of the stream, people are getting to the point where they're going out and they want their lives back. But the problem is, it's like, I think that this is maybe being used for some other reason as well. I get the impression that yes, there is a bug out there. Yes, it is killing people. There's no question. You know, that you can. There's proof. I'm not saying that all of those boxes are empty. I mean, let's be honest. In America, you've got one care home that's taking bodies out and put them in the back of a truck on the side of the street, a refrigerated truck which isn't even working properly, and leaving them in there because they've got no room at the morgue to put them. So it is happening. But the problem is that with the governments, are they in some way trying to collapse the economy so that they can bring in maybe a cashless society?
Yeah. Yes.
Some form of, if you notice that most people now, they don't deal with money.
Cash,
it's all card. It's all card. And
well,
I think that's a possible backdoor.
Ike mentioned that during his second interview with Brian Rose, where he talked about the destruction of the economy and the end of cash. I just want to kind of chime into what Ben said a few minutes ago, though, about these slogans, these social distancing and and stay indoors and all these slogans that have been burned into our heads in the last month. And I think he's absolutely right. I think they have some marketing firm or something that are coming up with these slogans and pumping them out. So the cadence is put together in a certain way that it sticks, that it's burned into our head. All of these little slogans that they come out with. George just posted right now, I actually find the government messages every day quite sinister. It's like you have to listen to them, almost Orwellian.
Me too, George.
This is the news, the message to the public. And I think it's true. But one thing I want to mention before I go over to you, Ben. Yes, Reeves is right. This is going to subside, and things are slowly going to get back to normal. But something we should be. This is never ever going to get back to normal, right?
It will go back. No, it won't.
We'll never ever. The way the world was in January 2020 will never happen again. And it's the exact same thing with September 11th, 2001. The world never went back to the way it was before September 11th, 2001. It never went back. And the exact same thing is going to happen now. The world will never go back to the way it was back in January 2020.
There will be major, permanent changes to our society.
Yes.
Some of those will be economic. I mean, it could go either way. I know that the Illuminati want to crash Deutsche Bank. I know they want to introduce another recession. This, of course, is the perfect opportunity to do it. Whether they'll get away with it or not, it could backfire like many other things. But there'll be other changes. For example, I think that this idea of working from home conferences and things like that. Now, there's been a lot of people. I mean, in fact, many years ago, I used to read a magazine called Focus, which is like a science magazine, which talks about work. It did several parts to promote working from home, and I know this has been going on.
Telecommuting.
Yeah, this has been on the cards for a while. I got a feeling that some of the people who are currently working from home through this lockdown will continue to do so afterwards.
Yeah.
That will stay the same.
Yeah, it's true, Ben, because there are companies now that have decided to close their offices, and then their workers now will just work from home.
I think that's going to become a permanent. I mean, it's going to anyway. This is going to accelerate that process.
Yeah,
it's possible that there's going to be all kinds of different cultural things will come out. They may be a kind of lockdown top 10 because of people, making. I've noticed people have been writing music and things like that. They've been taking advantage of their extra free time. That could well happen. There could be some kind of situation where working hours are reduced permanently for certain professions. It could be that certainly for a long, long time. It may take a long time for the workforce to return to normal. I mean, they're already talking about staggering your working hours during the lifting of the lockdown. So, like as with 9/11, it's not going to be the same again.
No.
But there could be good or bad. Hopefully, there'll be a good effect if the intention of the Illuminati is to use this pandemic to bring their new world order closer. But it could backfire, like in many ways 9/11 did. And so hopefully that will happen again. We don't know at the moment. As to quote the wonderful Tony Blair, the kaleidoscope is shaken, and the pieces are in flux.
Tony Blair.
Before they settle, let us remodel this world on our image. And what he said accounts just as much for us.
Yeah, Tony. I'm not a fan of that guy.
Yeah, I was being ironic when I
yeah,
said wonderful. You may have noticed.
Tony Blair is like the political equivalent of Brian Cox.
Oh, God, yes. I put the two together, I think.
What do you think, Reeves?
Yeah, Tony Blair.
Tony Blair.
All I can think of is that kind of half bemused smile. That expression on his face was always an expression that someone just told him something he's not really sure to laugh or question.
Yeah. What if Tony Blair secretly was Shrouded Hand?
Shrouded Hand is Tony Blair. Shrouded Hand and Shrouded Games. Have you? Shrouded Hand has got a games channel as well.
Does he really?
Go watch him. Plays all the horror games. Love it. Great
Shrouded
stuff.
Hand, yeah. That's the greatest.
Great. People should go and visit Shrouded Hand.
I'm gonna make that my ringtone, I think. Shrouded Hand, yeah.
Great channel.
Well, guys, it's been an hour and 30 minutes. We should start winding down, I think. Let me go through some of the comments here. Let's see. Let's see. My brother Richard says that David Icke is the Son of God, which there you go. And then he has a message for Ben. He talks about they eat bats, Ben. I'm assuming he's talking about the Chinese.
Apparently there are markets where they have these rather strange foodstuffs. I mean, things you won't see if you go to your local Chinese restaurant or takeaway outside China. Apparently, if you go into and you eat a native Chinese restaurant, it's different. I know that some cultures have different attitudes to food that we do, and some of the things that we might find repulsive in our country, they don't, because their tastes are different, and their sort of their disgust reflexes set at a different level.
You find that third world countries, poorer countries, eat pretty much anything. You know, because they gotta eat, so they'll eat anything. But I don't know. All right, let's start wrapping it up. But do you have any questions from the people watching? George says, "Thanks, guys. Good show. Take care."
Thanks,
Bye,
George.
George. Have a good night. Thank you so much for swinging by and saying hello. Do you have any other comments that I haven't read through? Let's see. Rich has been posting a lot of stuff, but most of it is nonsense. Some of it is funny. He says the Antichrist has been born. There you go. Very good.
Yeah.
Well, all right, guys. Let's wrap it up. Once again, awesome to have you on the live stream. I'm really starting to enjoy this. Maybe I should do more in the week or something. I really enjoy the whole live stream.
Well, calm
deal.
down. It's turning into a TV channel. We're going to be.
It is.
Remember when Channel 4 first popped up, and you're waiting for it to. Remember that? I remember that.
The Channel 4. Well, for me, I got it worse, dude, because when Channel 4 happened, I was living in Wales, so we didn't get
S4C.
We got S4C.
Yeah, S4C. You had not such good programs.
No, it was Welsh language,
it was crap.
And it was all Welsh.
Yeah, it was all Welsh, and I don't speak Welsh. And we'd only get Channel 4 in the evening, so that wasn't a fun time for me. But I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Yeah. Oh, here we go, Ben. Here's another one from Richard. He says the Swansea UFO Network sends their love.
Oh, thank you very much. I'd like to say hello to Emlyn, Mike, and everyone else there. Thanks, guys. I love Sufon and Gary and everyone else, because I've spoken there a couple of times. So
he's been down there.
Take care. Thanks for watching, guys.
Yeah, very cool. All right, let's call it a night. Thanks for everyone coming on. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Don't forget to, let me see if I can do this. Please subscribe to the channel. If you're not a subscriber to Mindset Central, please do so. Go ahead and click the subscribe button on the page. We really appreciate that. Help us growing. Ben, tell everyone where they can go ahead and find your stuff on the internets and podcasting and all that wonderful stuff.
Hospital Porters Against the New World Order. If you just put that in per panel, HPANWO. Also, Roswell Rising, a novel of disclosure, which is my book, and it's 2 sequels. I do recommend those if you like the UFO sort of conspiratorial Illuminati stuff.
Yes.
So yeah, check me out, guys. Thanks for watching.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Peace.
Cheers.
We'll see you all again very soon. Have a good night.
Cheers.
Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye.